show you how to do a quarter square triangle. So that's a triangle done with into quarters. This is what it looks like. Here's another one. I haven't even ironed this one yet, but I kind of love the way that looks. So that's what we're shooting for. I've already got a little bit of a head start. So you want to lay your pieces out so that you are sewing the correct sides of your triangles together. So this is how we want it to look. So I'm going to flip this over and I want to stitch on this side. Get this out of the way. So that being the case, I'm going to pin here and I'm going to pin right here. So I want my pins to really come up right in the intersections where I want my stitching to end. It's like a little place to kind of aim for. I'm going to put one in the middle here. Okay, so that's the stitching line we're going to do. Thimble on. Here's my needle and thread. I do have a knot, but I want to make sure that it's longer. Okay. So again, I am just going to start on the top, right in this corner. You can peek to make sure you hit the corner on the other side. And you know what? I didn't. So I'm going to arrange that again. Look and go, oh, that's much better. I am right. So it pays off to look. Then your pieces will be much more accurate. Okay, so always sewing from the top, little starter stitch, back stitch, and then the running stitch. I use this finger to sort of gather the stitches as I go, and then when I come up, I'm going to pull that out gently, smooth it, go back, a little back stitch, and again the needle is kind of just touching the tip of my finger there, and then I know it's time for it to come back up, and all the action's happening in my left hand here as the fabric is going up and down. That's where all the action is, and your right hand, or the hand with your needle in it, is very steady with your needle kind of pressed against the side of the thimble, and that gives you the leverage and stability you need to get those stitches going. Okay, now we're going to come to the corner. I'm going to come right up at that intersection where the pin is. I'm going to take the pin out and knot it off. One, I'm going to go back through a second time, two, and then this is what it looks like. So let's figure out how we want to do this. Basically goes like this, and I'll show you how to sew those two pieces together. All right, next I'm going to show you how to sew these two pieces together. So this is the arrangement that we want. So I'm just going to go right sides together, match up these corners, always pinning so that your pin comes up right in the seam intersection. I'm going to do that side and do the opposite corner. And then we've got our intersection. So I'm going to push the seam allowance away from, I'm going to be stitching this, so I'm going to push it the other direction, but I'm going to do the same sort of little wiggle thing you do to nest seams. That feels pretty good, and I always peek because I'm superstitious. That looks pretty good. And I'm just going to give it a little tug, not too hard. You don't want to pop your stitches. Make sure it's tight. And again, I'm going to now take a pin right on the seam, and I'm going to have it come up right in that corner, right in that intersection. That's going to give you a nice seam intersection. These patches are a little bit longer, and I don't want things to get off, so I'm going to throw a couple extra pins in for security. All right, so let's continue. Yeah, my thread is just barely going to make it, I think. Okay, I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to crumple that in my hand a little bit. Start at that intersection. Let's peek. Yep, I'm right in the corner. That's one reason why it's good to mark both sides. It really kind of gives you a way to make sure you're being accurate. And there's nothing much different here, just normal stitching. We are now coming up along the seam allowance, so I'm going to push that seam allowance away, so it's all stacked on one side, right by that pin. This is the same way that we did with the 4 patch. Come up here, and now when I come back up with the needle's on the back side, and I'm going to kind of bounce it off that whole ridge of seam allowances and the pin. It's going to come up and make sure I don't get doubled. I'm going to hold that tight, and I'm going to do a little security stitch. Same thing. Come right up, and it just kind of bounces off there. You can just kind of feel where you're only going through the 2 layers of fabric and not the whole stack. And now we don't stitch the seam allowances down, so I'm going to go right in the corner. I'm going to watch where it comes out the other side. It's right in the corner. And now I'm going to pull these back the other way, come down right. I can just feel where that ridge starts. I'm going to come down right next to it and just do a little back stitch. And now that intersection's nice and secure, but not stitched down. And we're just going to do a running stitch till we get to the end. Come right in at the pin. And now we're going to knot it off. And there we go. And we've got a nice little intersection there. And that's a 1/4 square triangle block. Next, I want to show you how to sew the 1/4 square triangles together for our block. So we want them going opposite directions. And just as usual, we're going to put them right sides together. The trickiest thing here is to make it so that your seams are going to nest. So again, you just do it your normal way, which for me involves kind of pushing them together, wiggling a little bit, double checking that they look good, and then putting a pin right along that seam allowance, or that stitching line coming right up in the corner where we want it to go. And we're going to repeat that over here. And look at this, I haven't trimmed this dog ear off, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. I can do that later. And I'm just going to, again, kind of feel that those are nestled in there, give them a little tug, and have that pin come up right in the corner where we're shooting for. I'm going to do one pin in the center here, and we're just going to stitch from corner to corner, making sure that we are folding our seam allowances at the beginning and the end out of the way. So let me grab my thimble. Let me show you how to do that. And we've got a knot in there. That's good. So again, I'm gonna pull this out, but not move anything. Go in right. The seam allowances are pushed away. I'm gonna go in right in that corner that I can feel that I'm a little off there. Come back up. And then keeping those seam allowances pushed out of the way, I'm just going to stitch to the other corner. Okay, so now that we're here, I've got the seam allowances both being pushed to the left. just like that. And I'm going to back stitch and follow that line, and then just come up right in that corner, which should line up right next to those seam allowances. Take the pin out and just go ahead and knot here at the end. Clip it, and let's see how it looks. And that's how you stitch them together.